Hello, everyone. Very good morning. My name is Mohan Ram. I'm representing DigitalOcean. Just to add to what Deepak said, the domains, all of that, I was recently reading a blog which said, the moment you have kids, go and register a domain in their name. Because in an increasingly digital world that we are going to be living in, their digital trademark, the names, the domains are going to become increasingly important. Having said that, coming to my topic of discussion today, I'm representing DigitalOcean, which is a cloud infrastructure company. A quick show of hands, how many of you today have some part of your business or an application running on the cloud? Yeah, not bad, that's about 50% of the room. How many of you don't have? The other 50, right? So, yeah. All right, so today it's my pleasure to kind of stand in front of you and speak to some of the benefits of the cloud, right? Technology that has increasingly proven itself to be very valuable, and I'm very proud to be an evangelist of sort today to kind of speak to what it is, right? Before cloud computing really became the norm, how are businesses using infrastructure, right? People were buying servers with not really much clarity on what is the requirement going to be 2 years down the line, right? They used to keep in mind their peak traffic, what is the maximum they would use, and they would kind of procure servers, they would procure compute capacity and all of that, right? And also, there used to be an entire IT team, IT division that used to just have people managing, upgrading servers, doing maintenance windows, right? In fact, my own career sort of reflects the change that has happened in infrastructure, right? About 10 years back, I was working for a company, a data storage company, right? So we would sell storage boxes. Companies, the moment they would want to deploy a new application, would reach out to, let's say, a Cisco, an HP, order a bunch of servers. They would reach out to companies like NetApp, EMC, buy servers, right? And then application vendors, all of that. Months would be spent just planning this solution. Months would be spent procuring this infrastructure, because a lot of these servers would come from the US, let's say. It would be stuck in customs for a while, and then a team has to go and deploy those machines. Many nights would be spent in the data center, then testing would happen, then deployment, right? Just so much of time would be spent from deciding that you want new infrastructure to the time that that infrastructure would be deployed, right? So, and really the disadvantages would be, it would be expensive to set up. You need to procure that, do your POs, pay up front, all of that. Problems with troubleshooting, every time you run into a problem, you have to isolate whether it's a server issue, storage issue, application issue, and then you have support teams internally managing the relationship with each of these vendors. And also, most of the time, when you're not hitting your peak traffic, peak load, a lot of idle time and poor ROI on your investments, right? So that was the reality before cloud. Fast forward, today, cloud is really a reality, and I think we all talk about cloud is the new buzzword, but really, if I have to break it down, what is exactly cloud? Basically, instead of using your machines, your servers, you're using someone else's, right? And over the internet. It's the use of remote servers on the internet to store, manage, and process data rather than on your local machine. So I think there are also some funny videos on YouTube about people trying to explain what the cloud is, right? I think the whole metaphor that is used for cloud kind of confuses people. There's like data is somewhere on the cloud. Basically, when people use cloud, it is meant to indicate that the location, the underlying hardware, infrastructure does not matter. All that matters is you are able to use resources over the internet, and you don't have to care about the rest, right? That's cloud computing. Today, when cloud computing is a reality, you use servers, from cheap servers to high-end servers, no upfront investments, right? You can scale. Today, you have 100 users. Let's say during peak season, your user traffic just increases, so you can scale instantaneously. You don't have to procure all that infrastructure and manage it and all of that just to ensure that you're able to meet those requirements for a couple of days, right? And here, your cloud infrastructure provider will manage and serve your data, right? Also, some of the other use cases. Earlier, when we would have dedicated environments, this would be a reality. On the first row, let's say you had 10,000 jobs that needed to be solved, and you had machines dedicated within your data center, that would take about 500 hours, let's say. Today, just because you have cloud, you have access to as much capacity, as much compute you want, you can just do that in 1 hour, and that's really the power of cloud. Earlier, there were a couple of facts that were being shown on the screen. It said 96% of businesses have seen increase in their business just because they adopted the cloud, right? Some of the other infographics or graphics that kind of speak to the value of cloud itself. Let's say the dotted line is your predicted demand, right? And then earlier you would go and buy infrastructure to kind of meet that sort of predicted demand. That's your blue line, right? A lot of large capital expenditure that happens. And reality is your red line, which is your actual demand. It goes up some days, it's not exactly as per your predicted demand. And what you would do with the blue line is initially there is very low demand, but you've already invested a lot of infrastructure, right? And then when there is opportunity cost when your demand is much lower than the existing infrastructure. And there are times when your demand is much higher than your existing infrastructure, and those are times when you can't serve those customers and you're losing that business. But with cloud, it really scales according to your demand, and that's the true power of the cloud, right? And when we talk about cloud, I think all of us today at some point in some form use cloud, right? It could be one of these forms. It could be infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and today really in the world we live in, anything as a service, right? Just a quick overview just to keep track of time here as well. I'll do a quick one-liner. So if these are the various service models that are available. Infrastructure as a service, where companies like DigitalOcean, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud operate. That's really to think of as the nuts and bolts, right? It's really the servers, the machines, all of that. Some companies want to have control all the way through their infrastructure stack, and they would probably procure or adopt infrastructure as a service, right? And then there are companies which don't want the headache of managing the infrastructure. They want a layer of abstraction, and that's where PaaS, which is platform as a service, all they want is a platform or an environment where they can quickly build applications, right? An example would be Heroku. And on top is SaaS, which is software as a service. And today, all of us use services like Gmail. It could be CRM from Salesforce, right? Or Zoho. All of these are applications that you probably pay a certain amount to use every month. And that really qualifies as SaaS. And really, to your end users, what matters is all the way up. SaaS is what they probably interact with. What happens in the layers below is hardly of any importance to them. And that's really the various service models when it comes to cloud. I don't want to delve into each of these. I'll probably take questions if there are any as we go along. And today, when we talk about anything as a service, we have network as a service, load balancer as a service, business as a service. So really, with cloud, you become that much more agile to make anything as a service. The real model that you should be using today is pay as you use. You pay for whatever you use, and if you're not using it, you shouldn't be spending valuable bucks on that infrastructure or that model. And also when we talk about cloud, there are various different deployment models. One is public cloud, then there is private cloud and hybrid cloud. I'll just quickly speak to each of these. Public cloud is where you're readily open to kind of putting your data out on the internet, right? Of course it is secure, but also some of the other benefits would be it's cost effective, reliable, really flexible, and it's highly scalable, right? Public cloud providers, where companies like DigitalOcean operate. Then there are companies who are sold on the value of the cloud, but really some of their enterprise applications are so dear to them or extremely of critical value that they choose to create these environments, but within a corporate firewall, and that's private cloud. Of course, this is going to turn out to be much more secure, but also higher costs, and then you, of course, have more control because it's within your premises, within your firewall. But really the way to go, especially some of you who raise your hands to say we are not yet on the cloud, right? A good place to start would be the hybrid cloud, where you choose parts of your infrastructure or your environment where you're open to putting it out on the cloud, right? And some of the really highly critical data environments or applications are within your environments. So that's the value of hybrid cloud. So you can really choose where you want to go. This is putting it all together in terms of the characteristics of the cloud itself, right? Broad network access, rapid scalability and elasticity, measuring service. You can say how much bandwidth we've used, we'll pay only for that. How much compute have we used, we'll pay for that. So the cloud really provides a lot of good measurement and monitoring services that you should definitely use, and also resource pooling, on-demand self-service, right? Today, interestingly, for companies like DigitalOcean, a lot of it is our self-service platform. We hardly meet our customers, right? Today, of course, we get in front of our customers because we want to build and nurture those relationships. But for the longest time, customers would buy services of our platform, of our website, and we didn't have to meet them. So that's really a self-service platform where customers say, I want a server, I'm going to spin up a server, and when I don't need it, I will spin it down, and I'm going to pay for whatever I used, right? So that's the real value of the cloud. Really kind of summarizing it here, it's maintenance free. You don't need to have big teams that are managing and maintaining your infrastructure. You can access it anywhere, right? Many of us have cloud services on our phone. Our photos are getting backed up to the cloud, right? So it's really used anywhere. Fast implementation, you don't need long deployment cycles to go ready. And that becomes a competitive differentiation. If tomorrow you think of an idea, tomorrow you think of a new application, which could be a competitive differentiation for your business, you can spin up servers and you're ready to launch it to your customers. You don't have to wait for long deployment cycles to kind of have that infrastructure ready. It's instant scalability. You're seeing that traffic is increasing. At the click of a button, you can increase your scale and your backend infrastructure. No upfront costs, right? I'm not spending $1. I want a server for the next 2 hours. I can spin up a server and shut it down by spending only a couple of cents rather than doing upfront costs. I have to pay billions or millions of dollars upfront to procure that infrastructure. And of course, better security. Today, security, we all realize data is extremely critical, extremely important. So the cloud infrastructure is definitely becoming more and more robust, but also because users have a lot more control over their infrastructure, they can put the necessary security balances, checks and balances. This pretty much speaks to some of the points that I've been speaking about. Really, by adopting the cloud, what you're doing is shifting all your capital expenditure to operational expenditure, right? Some of this, if you're going to be investing on servers and machines, that will become dead investment for you in a couple of months, couple of years, given how fast technology is changing, how fast machines are becoming redundant, right? You can scale on demand, faster deployment, disaster recovery, right? You have backups in a bunch of other places, so one machine goes down, your users still get access. And today, we're all used to 24/7. No service or real business, customer businesses can take a maintenance window, right? And also load balancing, depending on your traffic. So, couple of actionables, right? I have a last couple of minutes. So, when you're choosing your cloud provider or really a partner, because they should be able to support you in terms of a partnership, is ensure that they have the necessary security in place, but also once you have partnered with a cloud provider, ensure that your teams are putting necessary security checks in place. Also compliance. Some businesses have compliance requirements, like especially if you're a fintech business, if you're into healthcare, there are other regulations that you are bound by, right? HIPAA compliance. Some of the fintech regulations require that your data resides within the country, let's say in India, right? So they should have compliance requirements. Probably they should have data centers within the country, right? Architecture. Also, within your larger architecture of your infrastructure and environment, how does cloud fit in? So you will have to choose whether private cloud, public cloud, all of that. Manageability. Manageability is really important because ease of use should be really important. cloud should not be a new technology that your team has to go and learn, and that's where companies like DigitalOcean try to simplify infrastructure so that there is no steep learning curve, right? And also service levels, cloud providers need to provide SLAs because your business needs to be up and running all the time, and you are responsible for your end customers. And also they should provide 24/7, and costs. Really the value of cloud is that you're going to save bucks, and they should be affordable, they should be predictable, you should know what you're going to be paying at the end of the month, and only for whatever you're using, right? Some of the bonus features of your cloud providers would be container capabilities. Containerization technologies are really up and coming. A lot of companies are building containerization technologies and making their underlying infrastructure redundant. You could move from one cloud to another cloud, but really when you containerize, you're making your infrastructure extremely transferable, right? And also today, another strategy that a lot of companies are using is multi-cloud. It's a reality. You don't want to put all your apples in one basket. You want to kind of spread it across different cloud providers for different kind of internal environments. And that's also a good strategy if at all you're going for the cloud. So what are some of the key actionable steps you can take by getting started on the cloud today? Start with specific use cases. Let's say your test and dev environment, if you're not already on the cloud. Identify restrictions and gray areas. Like I said, some regulations that you might be required to adhere to. And also, on your next development project, encourage your teams to use the cloud so that you get started there. And also we offer a free trial, and most cloud providers provide a free trial. So get started on that free trial so you get to benefit from and see the advantages for yourself. And finally, as from DigitalOcean, we understand many mid-sized businesses are kind of hesitant but want to make use of the cloud. We offer a workshop where we come and understand your tech stack, understand your environments, and do an assessment, right? So which parts of it should you move? So you can definitely use that link to sign up for a workshop, and some of our tech experts will help you on that journey. So with that, I will pass it on to the next speaker, and we'll be happy to take more questions later. Thank you.